Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 9 o'clock on a Saturday, which means it's time for a Talk Magic. Now, today I have a huge name, one of my favorite magicians in the whole world. This is somebody I've known for a few years, but this is somebody that everybody is going to know. So, first of all, this person is a magic dealer, has an incredible magic dealership. This person is very, very knowledgeable. He is a creator. He literally knows everybody. He is one of the most respected people I know. But on top of being a creator, on top of being a magic dealer, he is also an incredible performer. His bio reads like, a list of, put it this way, most people would only dream of having the career that this gentleman has had. And he is so humble, so helpful, and yet has achieved so much. And I cannot wait to interview him because he knows literally everybody. I'm very excited to get him on the channel. I've been trying to get him on the channel for 2 years. That's how busy he is. I am, of course, talking about from MyMagic, the one and only Meir Yedid. How you doing, Meir? You
Hey,
okay?
Craig. I thought you were introducing somebody else for a second.
Not at all. I just said I'll tell everybody. I'll say the same thing to them as I said to you. As soon as I switched Zoom on, I was like, well, now I've got library envy. Like I wish my collection of books was that good. And then you turned around to me and you went, yeah, this is just part of it. I'm in
Yeah.
basically an entire room where there's nothing but books. Like that's so cool, and it just shows, yeah, of course somebody as knowledgeable as you would have a library like that, it just kind of makes sense.
It makes life easy if you're looking for something. And also, a lot of them are autographed, which is kind of cool. And I used to know where everything is, but now beyond the organized part, it's all piles on the floor.
Wow. I mean, that's just incredible. I can imagine just there's some books that like people have never read. Like I'm looking some and I'm like, oh, yeah,
Yeah,
amazing stuff.
there's some in there I never read. A lot in there I never read.
Wow. Well, you
But
know what? I want to say thank you for taking the time to do this. I know you're very busy. I know you've got a million things going on. You're going all over the country, performing, creating, lecturing. I know how busy you are with MyMagic. So thank you for taking the time to do this. I really
my,
appreciate it.
my pleasure, Craig.
And you know what I'm going to do? What I want to do, I want to start this interview at the very beginning because a lot of people watching this will know you from MyMagic and some of the incredible projects that you've brought out, and and we're going to get into that. We're going to get into everything that you've done because one of the things that you do through MyMagic is you take pieces of magic that would have otherwise been forgotten and you bring it to the forefront. And it's you know how much I respect David Roth, and I love what you've done with David's legacy. But before we get to any of that, before we get to any of that at all, I want to start at the very beginning. And I want to talk about your origin story. More specifically, I want to know how you got into magic. Where did it all come from? What was the beginning for you?
All right. So I was born in Israel.
Okay.
And we got a black and white TV shortly after Israel started airing television shows,
Hmm.
their own stuff instead of stuff from other countries. And basically, it was just a few hours every night. I would say I was probably around 5, 6, 7 years old, maybe in that range. Uh, and what they did is I remember on Thursday nights, there was before they start like Bonanza or whatever the TV shows they were going to air, there was 1 minute of teaching magic, and it was just two hands, and they taught one trick every Thursday,
Wow.
and I built all that. It was like goldfish, ink to goldfish. There was a UF Grand torn and restored thread. Those are the only two I actually remember. So I actually made those things to perform. But even before then, I would say that a lot of all my cousins, all my not cousins, all my uncles take credit for me being a magician because they all remind me that they taught me a card trick once, and it was always the same card trick, which is the key card.
Hmm. Hmm.
So they all knew it and they all did that for me. So that's how I really started kind of doing magic. But then when I moved to the United States when I was 10 years old, I already had interest in magic. But of course, now I saw magic on TV. There were libraries with tons of magic books, and even though I didn't read English at that time, I could look at the pictures and figure things out. Then, around I guess 72, 2 years after I came here, I started reading English, talking English, watching more TV, and that's when Marshall Brodeen came up with his line of TV magic cards and the TV Magic set. And of course, I had to go buy those things. They were like nothing, $1 or whatever it was. And I learned every trick in there, the rice bowls, everything Marshall Brodeen put out, I bought and practiced. And then in the Boys Life magazine, I started sending out, a quarter. You sent them a quarter, like Scotch tape to an index card. And then they sent you a little catalog. And then as I was saving my money, I was used to get a quarter a week from my father. So instead of buying candy, I would save my money and buy magic tricks by mail. And then when I got old enough to ride the subway by myself, I went to Tannen's. So I would have been like 15 or so. And I bought a Dove pan and, that kind of bigger stuff. And then after a while of hanging around at Tannen's when I was like 15 and 16, I would get to see everybody. Like Harry Lorraine was always there, Frank Garcia was always there, David Roth was there on the weekends. So, they were all, I didn't know who they were unless they were on TV, like Harry Lorraine on You. Tony Spina, I was impressed the first time he walked in because I remember his picture in the Tannen catalog, and I say, wow, he must be famous. So I kept going there on the weekends, every Saturday. And, slowly got, I basically was a listener because English was not my first language. So I was like shy and just listening to what everybody else was saying. But that turned out to work in my favor because they all thought, oh, he's a nice kid. He's so polite. So they would show me stuff. And then what I didn't know is every Saturday, Tannen's used to close at 3:00. And then everybody would go to a cafeteria, walk down to a cafeteria, all the cool guys. And then one time, maybe I was 17 or so, one of the other kids my age said, hey, we're going to the cafeteria. Why don't you come along? And I didn't know what I was getting into, but I go to the cafeteria and it's a who's who of magic just sitting around, kidding around. Harry Lorraine in one table, Ken Krenzel, Slidini walks in, Frank Garcia is there. Gene Mays is there, and all the people you've read about at that. Oscar Weigel was a regular. Not a lot of those people don't mean anything today, but back then they were the giants in the industry. So and I would just like sit there and listen to them, and I slowly, I've been working on a card trick. I asked Harry Lorraine how to do it, and then he teaches it to me. And David Roth and Darwin Ortiz were always sitting together arguing about different things. But everybody showed up eventually. Like all the magicians that were visiting would end up there. So this went on every single Saturday. And after the cafeteria was 3 till about maybe 5 or 6, then a smaller group would go to a Chinese restaurant. And eventually I became part of that small group. So we went from like maybe 40, 50 people at 3:00 to about 5 to 10 people from 6 to, let's say, 10, 11 p.m. until they threw us out of the restaurant. Then we'd go to like an Italian joint till midnight. Del Cartier was there, Bill Morales, who illustrated the Lorraine books. A bunch, a lot of people were there. So I got to know them all. And then when I was graduating high school, I was offered a job at Tannen's, and I decided to do that instead of try to go to college.
So I want to before we carry on from that point, this is fascinating because what a lot of people don't realize is that period of time that you're talking about, the New York, I know you're talking about New York because obviously,
Yeah, yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
the names are New York.
In
The
the
New York
70s.
magic scene was incredible. That was
Oh
kind
yeah,
of, it was New York was where a lot of the best magic was coming out of.
yeah.
And to be a part of that,
Yeah, it was just like luck of the draw. We happened to move here from Israel, and then I went to Tannins, and I mean, it's all it's luck. So this was in the '70s, and in '79, I got the job at Tannins as their bookkeeper.
wow. Did you, can I ask you one question before we talk about the job at Tannins? Did you at any point up until that point, like, have aspirations to be like a performer? Like some people talk about, I was doing shows at the age of 5, and I was
No,
doing,
no, no,
were
no.
you?
I was too shy to. I was just doing it for friends. I did some shows in school for like at with me and a couple of other kids that did magic, and we did it in people's homes, and we invited all our friends, but not a paying gig ever. I never really thought about being a professional magician. I didn't have a personality. I didn't. I was shy. I didn't know anything about being a performer at all. But my whole life doesn't have goals. I work from day to day. It's like, tomorrow is my next set of goals. I don't have long-term goals, which is a mistake. I recommend people do have long-term goals.
Well, you've done quite well for yourself not having one.
Yeah, well,
It worked for you.
you're never disappointed my way because you never let yourself down.
That's one way of looking at it. Yeah, I love that. I
Yeah,
love
but no, I never wanted to be a performer. It never even occurred to me. I figured I'd be because I don't think it was a viable thing back then to be a close-up magician for a living. I mean, yeah, you did some parties and things like that, but it was back then. It was like the stage guys were making all the money.
I was about to say, over in the UK, when I was born in '76, so all through the '80s, the close-up magic wasn't really a thing. It
No,
was anybody who was getting into magic, it was all,
kid shows.
you learned how to be a stage magician. I
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
wanting to get from my parents, oh, could you buy me that chair suspension? It was
yeah,
and it wasn't like it is today. For anybody that's
yeah,
watching this, that's like
yeah,
new
yeah,
into magic these days, everything's about close
yeah,
up. But back
yeah.
back then, that
No,
wasn't the
almost nothing. Almost nothing. The
case.
close-up was the way you got the stage gigs. Plus, everybody told you, all the stage guys get all the women. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, the nerds were the close-up magicians.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, so I did that, and I went to Tannen's Jubilee a few times. Made a lot of friends there too. Ricky Jay was performing there the first time I went there. A lot of cool people back. They were like regular people back then, but they became legends later.
Yeah.
Like Slidini was always there. We hung out a lot. But yeah, so that was like '79. I started working at Tannen's Jubilees.
So
Uh,
so 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 you got the job in Talents at 79. You didn't go to college.
no.
You kind of said, you know what, instead of going to college, I'm going to go and work at Tannins. And
Mhm.
even at that point, were you aspiring to like be anything else beyond?
I was thinking to follow my father's footsteps and become an accountant and a CPA, and I actually have a very an extensive knowledge about accounting. I mean, that's where I was going, and then that's how I got the job. I went into Tannins one day, and I went to like a CPA meeting or something out of high school, and Jack Ferreira saw this under my arm, and he says, what's this? And I said, well, maybe I want to be an accountant. And he said, well, our bookkeeper just got pregnant and she's leaving. Why do you come work here? And I said, oh, I'll give it a shot.
And what an opportunity, because obviously, you're already very in with the in
Yeah,
crowd in
yeah,
New York, but working at Tannins, like that
yeah.
is
Oh
the
yeah.
destination for any magicians visiting. For the people that don't know, that don't live in America, Tannins is the place to go
Yeah.
in New York. If you're a magician, you're going to go to Tannins.
Mhm.
So working there, you're in the place where pretty much every magician is interviewed.
Everybody that comes into the U.S. back then, even anywhere you went in the U.S., you landed in New York first, and then you made connections. So you stayed there a few days. So I got to meet not everybody, obviously, but a lot of magicians who were just coming in to New York to hang out for a day or two and buy magic because there was no internet. I mean, we used to get people with lists that worked for the airline. So a magician would know somebody like a pilot or a stewardess or somebody that was working on an airline, and they'd come in to New York with an empty suitcase and a checklist, and we'd fill up the suitcase and take the thousands of dollars. And this would happen almost every week, where someone would send a relative over that was visiting to New York to pick up magic for them.
Wow.
Because also the post office was not reliable back then.
That's incredible. So you're working for Tannins, you're working in the accounts department, but obviously, you're getting to meet everyone. You're still obviously a huge part of the
community.
Yeah, the community. So what happened from that point on?
Okay, so this is where I got really weird and lucky.
Okay.
So I started, doing finger magic.
Let's not blaze past that, because for those of people that don't know, because some people watching this might know you as Meir Yedid, who's a magic dealer. But my first kind of the first time I was aware of you was when I was very new into magic, and I was just, when you first get into magic, you absorb everything. I was learning everything, and I came across, I think it was A1 Multimedia, and it was Finger Fantasies, and I remember looking into this, and this is before the internet as well, and saying, what's Finger Fantasies? And it's very hard to describe. This was like the thing that everybody was talking about. This was like cutting edge. This was taking things into a different direction. Yeah, you've got your card magic, you've got your coin magic, but there's this guy, and he can do these things with his fingers. He can do this, and he can do this, and he can do this. And when you put that DVD, well, it wasn't a VHS tape, when you put Finger Fantasies out, it over here in the UK, it caused a huge thing. I don't want to gloss over that, because that's a huge part of getting me to know who you are, and what, it was incredible.
But really, it was what happens, I started doing finger magic, and all the people in New York, this is stupid, right? Nobody cared. I was making my fingers disappear every single week, every opportunity I get. Nobody cares, because this is stupid, but I wasn't discouraged. I was having fun. So I was actually putting together an entire finger act, which is what Finger Fantasies was. And even before the VHS came out, I did it on the Paul Daniels show, and it was a book before then. But back in the 70s, I was a stupid kid who just did finger tricks. So I was slowly developing this act, more sequences, the telescopic, all that other stuff. And then I decide, I think I was 20 years old, 1980, I believe. And I went to the Desert Magic Seminar, because that was like the big convention in Vegas. Now, nobody in the West Coast had any idea who I was, but Obie O'Brien saw me do this stuff at the Tannin Jubilee for a few years already. And they used to have a bull session at the first day of the convention. And that's anybody who showed up can do 5 minutes in front of the audience. So, but Obie and Roger Klaus emceed, and they got the people. It wasn't just anybody. So Obie tells me, hey, why don't you do 5 minutes? I said, okay, So I do the most difficult. So first of all, let me tell you the audience: Vernon, Siegfried and Roy, Jimmy Grippo, Paul Harris, John Cornelius, Daryl. It was like who's who in the LA Magic Castle scene that I've only read about in Genie, never saw before. Johnny Paul. Everybody was there. And Daniel Cross. They were all in the audience in the first 2 front rows, because they used to do like the VIPs up front kind of thing. So I walk in, and I'm doing this, and I do the hardest card trick I know. It uses 26 different sleights. And it just okay. And then I go into my finger routine, and I do the gag where it's really gone, whatever. And then all of a sudden I do this, and I spread my fingers, and the finger is gone. And it was like thunderous, like, there were maybe 400 people in the room, and it was like, and all of a sudden everybody started paying attention and applauding in the middle of my act. They thought that was it.
Wow.
So then I continue with the act all the way to the end. It's almost what I do now, except it had a different ending back then. And then I get a standing ovation.
Wow. What
And this is impossible. I'm not a performer. I'm doing this stupid little thing that everybody hated in New York, and I get a standing ovation. Bob Reed was in the audience too, and actually he was the first person to write about my finger routine in his column in Pabular, but he didn't know my name. He just said this kid from New York made his fingers disappear. So, but what happened is everybody was talking about it at that convention, and that's when I made all my friends, like lifelong friends, like Daryl and Paul Harris and Cornelius, like all those people in my age group. And I became really good friends, and everybody else kind of knew me. Everybody wanted to talk to me, wanted to see it up close. So I got very, very lucky in that all of a sudden people thought this was magic, as opposed to all my friends in New York. So,
Well, it is lucky, but the other way to look at it is it takes balls of steel. As somebody who, you said yourself at that point you weren't a performer.
no.
And to go into that situation on the other side of the country, to stand in front of the giants of this industry, and not people that you knew every week in, week out from the East Coast. We're talking about, guys in the LA.
I was in awe of every single one of them.
But that takes balls. You create your own luck. It would have been pretty easy for you to turn around and go, Obi, no.
Yeah.
Nobody would have blamed you for that at all. The fact that you went there and you took that risk and you did it, and you didn't just do it, you just said it yourself. You did your hardest card trick that you did your finger fantasies routine. That's
But yeah, but so that was really, if you wanted to have a moment of what launched myself to thinking I can do magic as a performer, was that moment. Because when I came back to New York, everybody already heard about what happened. Because nobody could obviously remember my name. Meir Yedid is not a name that just you hear every day and you remember. So everybody remembered it as the finger guy. So they were calling all their friends in New York. Like Harry Lorraine got a bunch of calls from all his friends. Like, who's this guy that makes his finger vanish? He's from New York. And it's like, so by the time I came back to the cafeteria the following week, everybody kind of, wow, all of a sudden. And of course, I went to my head. I became, an asshole for a few months.
expected. That's what happens. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it must have felt good though, because
Oh,
obviously
yeah.
they were there on the East Coast while you were developing the act and they weren't taking it seriously. And then you walk back and you're like, well, okay, this is the
Yeah.
impact it can have. It's
Yeah.
been very difficult kind of putting that act together and kind of facing negativity, knowing you had something special, but not really getting as much
Yeah.
encouragement as you wanted.
Yeah. I think the first time I realized that not to give up on the finger stuff was, Derek Dingle did, this move where the finger would disappear.
Yeah.
It was in, I think, Jimmy Jones came up with it. It's in a linking ring. So he used to do that as a gag, and when he did the work behind the bar. And so Derek Dingle, one of the best card and coin guys in the world. And these magicians went to see him at the bar, and I overheard them talking the next day at Tannen's. They went with their layman friends, and all they were raving about was this finger trick. And I thought, wait a minute, you just saw the greatest card and coin guy in the world for, I don't know, an hour of magic, and all you remember is this. And it dawned on me, it's that the finger stuff is memorable.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did that, and then I went to the IBM and SAM conventions, and I won the SAM contest, and I came in, I think, third at the IBM contest, and I performed a few other contests, for a while. And so, and I put out a book, my
And
finger fantasies book.
during these competition wins? Were you still working with Tannins at that?
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I would because the conventions were really on the weekend, so I would really only just take one day off. I left Tannins briefly and worked for the Magic Townhouse for a little while, also for 9 months, and then went back to Tannins. Yeah, no, but basically that's the launch. That's my after that, I started putting out tricks, my Finger Fantasies book, a Wild Book Test, a Stage Stuff book, a few other things, and then all of a sudden the tragedy hits.
What's the tragedy?
And the car accident where I lost my fingers.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Oh, yeah. Can you talk through that? Would that be okay?
Yeah, yeah, sure. So I win all these contests. I do the Paul Daniels show. I do Comedy Tonight on a popular TV show at the time with my finger routine because it looked, I've already traveled all over the place, because everybody wanted to see the finger routine. And then there was a Ramones music video where I made my fingers disappear. So I'm driving home and a tire blows out. The car does 3.5 somersaults, lands upside down. And I still drive with my one hand on top of the steering wheel. And the guardrail on the Long Island Expressway went right through my hand, through the roof. And basically, a third of my hand got ripped completely off.
Oh my God.
I was in the hospital about 3 weeks. I mean, there were other injuries, but basically this is the one. Then I think I had 14 surgeries over 3 weeks, all kinds of reconstruction stuff. And they said the ring finger should take, but the pinky won't take. And it turned out to be the opposite. The pinky took and the ring finger had to go. But even the pinky is only half the size.
Yeah.
So that like ended my and back before the car accident, I had confidence as a performer. I was already doing walk around gigs. There was a jazz band that would hire me to open for them, where at all the parties they did, and just walk around stuff. And I was doing restaurants. I did Windows on the World by then like 7 times or 8 times. I had a restaurant in near Harlem, near NYU, a Chinese restaurant I used to work at. There was another Chinese restaurant. I don't know why so many Chinese restaurants, but Chinese restaurants on 23rd Street. I was there on Tuesdays. I was performing at the Magic Townhouse, and then later at Mostly Magic. I had a formal close-up show at the time, all before the car accident. So my career was coming in.
Yeah.
I felt like I could be a professional magician very soon. TV, everything was like gelling, and then the car accident.
It's like all the hard work was paying off.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, car accident, a third of my hand is missing. I do physical therapy for 1.5 years, and then I have to reevaluate because your first instinct is how can you do magic if you're missing a third of your hand?
Yeah.
So that's when I started focusing more on marketing products. I was still working at Tannins for another year or two. So I started marketing products, and then
started marketing products through Tannins while you're working?
No. I was doing it myself and selling it to them. So my first trick was Mirror Miracle, a packet trick I put out in 1979. And then the second trick was Twist and Shout. And then, I mean, there were a bunch, I was putting out slowly because I was also lecturing by then. So I had lecture notes and all kinds of other. So I had products already, but I wasn't using it to earn a living because everything was like $5, $10, back then.
Yeah.
But then I realized, I can't really work for layman. How can you do walk around if you're missing 1.5 fingers? That was an instinct. Yeah. So I focused more on doing magic for magicians as opposed to magic for lay people.
Yeah.
Because I still had the bandage, and I did a whole bunch of jokes for magicians. It doesn't matter which ones, but about the fingers and all that stuff. So after that, I started practicing. I started taking all my favorite tricks that I was doing righty, and I switched it over to lefty. I used to love to do like Phoenix Aces right-handed. So now, I started doing it, left-handed.
Wow.
So which is not as easy as you would think if you've never really palmed lefty.
I can only imagine how hard that would be to teach yourself
Yeah.
effectively how to do
It's
slides.
easier with cards than coins, believe it or not. I
That
decided
would,
early on because a lot of the magic you do with cards, especially close up, is left hand dependent. The false deals are left hand dependent. Uh, the only thing is you can't do a top palm, and that's
yeah,
kind of stupid. But there are a lot of bottom palms that I came up with as well that I published. And people would call me up on Derek. The first time he saw me after the accident, he sat like a half an hour teaching me the Altman bottom palm, which was this thing. Herb Zara was teaching me his version of the bottom palm. So they were all focusing on me doing bottom palms with left hand as opposed to top palms with the right hand. And you don't consider this exposure, I assume.
no, 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 no. It's only magicians that watch this ever.
Yes.
No
And
labels.
if they've gone this far and didn't get
Yeah, if they've
bored.
gotten this far, they deserve to know what a palm is. Yeah. Wow.
Yes. So I was reworking a lot of the routines, and basically I also figured out a thing struck in my head. If you can hide an elephant on stage, I should be able to hide the fact that I'm missing a finger when I'm performing. So this is an evolution, not immediate. And I realized that this part of the hand looks good. It's just I can't really show my hand empty, and I can't really, how many fingers am I holding? So basically, I re-choreographed all my magic so people are looking at this side of the hand or this side of the hand, or I'm making a fist, I'm pointing. So I really worked at all these gestures where I never actually show them this part of the hand or this part of the hand within a routine. I'm always holding on to something. And I started doing my formal shows again, and nobody was noticing I'm missing a finger at all.
Wow.
But I still wasn't doing coins because back when didn't go back to coins because I felt like if you make a coin disappear, the natural instinct is to look over here, and even if it wasn't here, I'd have to show my hand empty.
Yeah.
And I couldn't figure out a good way to show my hand empty this way. So I stayed away from coins for many, many years because that was what I was thinking. But it was not true because if you're natural and relaxed, it doesn't really matter. And if you're holding on to something, your hand feels empty anyway, whether you're palming or not. Plus, I lost all these muscles, so it took me a really long time to get the muscle. They're still not perfect to get the muscles strong enough to even hold this because the tendons had to regrow and then the muscles and the practice and all that other stuff. Anyway, we don't want to get gory. This is about magic.
No, but this is fascinating. I mean, talk about overcoming adversity. Like this is so. I have a couple of questions, if you don't mind. So the first question is: you were, you said you focused during this period of time before you kind of retaught yourself. You focused on creating magic, and you were still working at Tannen's. Is this the period of time that MyMagic was kind of born? Was it called MyMagic at that point?
No, actually, it was always Meir Yedid magic.
Okay.
It went to becoming
MY, yeah, you know what? I've known you for years, and I never knew. And
nobody.
it's only until now that I realized that my is Meir Yedid. I've never.
And the only reason it became MyMagic is I was able to buy the domain mymagic.com. No, because I was known as the finger guy, people were actually remembering my name. And after I won the SAM contest, I don't know if I even have the original copy of Finger Fantasies here, but yeah, my original finger book had like winner of the SAM because I used the routine to win the SAM contest. So all the ads were like, this is the act that won the SAM contest. So, but once again, advertising luck, because I felt, this is such a weird subject for a book. And Harry Lorraine wrote the book, because I figured I can't write it. I wasn't writing well enough. And he was considered the best writer in magic. And we worked out a deal. I paid him off over like, I don't know, 8 months or something. but he taught me a lot about writing. And I felt that his name is going to help sell the book. And then me to say this is the act that won the SAM contest will sell the book. But I didn't think of it at the time. Once again, luck comes in, is by me saying I won the SAM contest in all the magazine ads, is I'm actually was promoting myself as a magician. And I didn't even think of it. All I cared about was selling these books and not lose my shirt. And then years later, I realized you can't name any SAM contest winners. You can't even name last year. Well, last year's FISM we know, but like 3 FISMs ago, you can't name any of those winners.
Nope.
Or SAM or IBM, but everybody kind of knew that I won the SAM contest, and that was before my car accident. And then, I was talking about cards and coins. I also taught myself to do my finger act left-handed. So this, this was a challenge I started working on in the hospital, because in my book it says anybody can do this. So I had to prove that I can do this entire act word for word left-handed. And I did it. It's still not as good as I was much more limber righty than I am lefty for obvious reasons. And then in '87, 2 years after my car accident, I competed that SAM contest again in St. Louis, and I win the contest again, doing the same basic act left-handed.
Oh, that must have felt so good, man.
It did. So I mean, yes, it felt great. I mean, and I won an originality award and stuff that year also. But what it did is I didn't realize it at the time. I was the first person to ever win that contest twice, or more than once. Since then, other people have done that. But why would you even compete a second time back then?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Why did you go in for the second time to prove to yourself, I can do? Yeah.
That was the only reason. And I added more finger stuff to it. By then I was also doing the twisting arm, and
Yeah. Wow. That's phenomenal. Yeah, the twisting up, that was your creation, the twisting arm, wasn't it?
Well, Shinko in Japan came up with the idea. I just made it into a trick. So he was a gymnast, and the setup for the parallel bars is the same as the setup almost for the arm. So he was showing it to me as a stunt, but and he did it as kind of as a do as I do, but you saw what was kind of happening. So what I added is the misdirection and the cover, and made it as a do as I do magic routine. So before me and Shinko was doing the exact same move, but I made it into a trick.
Because obviously, going back, that was one of the things that really put David Blaine on the map.
Yeah,
Because nobody knew about this, and when he first came out, and he was so unique and original, all the clips were him doing.
And it was explained everywhere on the internet.
Yeah, that must have been really annoying.
It hurt me. But that's when I put out the VHS on it, because before then it was just a $5 booklet. But I was already doing it before David did it. I was already at least 5-6 years. I taught it to David. I knew him since he was a kid, maybe even probably a teenager, early teens. But before that, I sold a ton of those books, booklets, those $5 booklets, which might still be here. It's yellow. Maybe not. No. I don't collect my own books. I don't know why.
That's hilarious. That's mad.
But
that's crazy. So did winning the SAM a second year give you the confidence to then start performing to the general public again, or did you continue to focus on magicians?
I already started to work a little bit for lay people, but by then I was already like on and off doing it for let's say years or 6 years, and I just got tired of going to people's homes and going to restaurants, and in New York it's a different back then doing magic in a restaurant was not the most glamorous thing in the world. It was you were like one step below a busboy, because at least a busboy can give them water and coffee, and you couldn't. The first time I did table hopping outside of New York, I was shocked because I was being treated like a celebrity. But in New York, it was just, you're just there, to kill time until the food arrives. But I stopped. I didn't enjoy going to people's homes and being nice to people, and the conversations and small talk. Can you make my wife disappear? The standard stuff. I just got tired of it, and I really started focusing. I mean, I still do magic for lay people today, but not on, but only the shows I want to do.
Yeah, yeah. You get to pick and choose, which is the best way to do it. So you focused on building up your career as a lecturer,
Yeah.
a creator, and really focusing on Meir Yedid magic.
And a performer at magic conventions.
Yeah.
I did a lot of lectures. At one time, I think I was in England 5 times in 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I used to love Ron McMillan's convention. I used to go there all the time. I did, I think, the British Ring at least twice. I did what's the one, Magic Books by Post. Donald, he used to run it. The Bristol Magic Day or something. I did that.
Yeah.
In Germany, I did Magic Hands a few times. I mean, I was basically traveling everywhere, and the Paul Daniels TV show helped a lot because it was airing all over Europe. And so the magicians, and back then, remember when the Paul Daniels show was airing, it was the highest rated television show on set. I appeared the year after he won the Golden Rose, which means I got paid a ton of money. I made more money from that one show than I've ever had in my entire life till today. It was insane, and all cash. It was like stacks. but so and he was always very nice to me. Paul was great. But so that show back then on BBC One was the highest rated show on Saturday night. And then the following Saturday or Sunday, I forget which day, it was on BBC, rerun on BBC Two, when it was the highest rated show on that night on TV. So people got to see me twice. And then it was also syndicated all over Europe, parts of Japan, Middle East. I used to get checks for like $3, $6, $9, and as they were showing it in other countries. So everybody kind of saw my finger routine on TV in Europe at that point, because magicians definitely watched the show. It was the only thing on TV back then, magically. And so everybody kind of wanted to see it live as opposed to TV.
So you were getting booked for every convention.
Every convention, yeah. And I was loving it because, to be honest, I much rather perform and lecture for magicians than for lay people. Because it's like somebody explained, it's like, I'm going to use Madonna, but it wouldn't, like Taylor Swift, let's say. People that went to see Taylor Swift were giving her a standing ovation before she even walked up on stage, because they came loving her. So when you do a lecture at a magic club, they came to see you. When you do a show for lay people, they came to see a magician, and you're interchangeable with just about anybody. And then the next day, they pretty much forgot who you are. They may remember the guy with the fingers, but pretty much you've been erased from their life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I really love kidding around with magicians, and it's very relaxing, and you can have fun, and you speak the same language, you make fun of the same people. It's a whole different. It's like you're almost like a celebrity when you're a magician performing for other magicians.
Yeah, and you can walk around a magic convention and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, it's
not anymore, but back then." It's now.
Well, I don't know.
Is he still alive? He lost all his hair.
Well, what? So you're performing everywhere. You're traveling everywhere. You're lecturing. You're creating. Now, obviously, we know your company as a company that brings out magic
Yeah.
from all different
Well,
magicians.
that happened later.
Yeah, yeah. I was about to say, how did where, what what
Well,
caused you to
it's
go from
also
there
okay.
to yeah?
What happened is I'm still basically a shy guy, and it was very difficult for me when people came up to the booth to tell them how good my trick is. It just felt awkward.
Okay,
So then I ended up buying Jeff Stewart's product line, who used to share a booth with me once in a while. He was getting into the robot business. So I bought all his magic products and I started manufacturing it. And then I realized that it was much easier for me to sell stuff that wasn't invented by me. It's like, hey, check this coin thing by Jeff Stewart, check this rope thing by Jeff Stewart. And I can say nice things about the trick and him without me coming off as like, it's like, it's just not my personality.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've known me. I never overhype anything I ever do. It's like under the radar, and people find a trick I put out 20 years ago and say, "Wow, this is good. Why didn't I ever hear of it?" Well, because I'm just selling it to my friends, kind of thing. But
But I will tell you, I will get to this in a bit. I will tell you, you're incredible demonstrating on a dealer booth because you have this very you're not Mark Mason. You know, Mark Mason's
no,
just
yeah, yeah,
a
different level.
phenomenon, but you seem to have this ability to it almost be conversational and show
Yeah,
something and almost kind of like, well, let me show you what it is and how it works
yeah,
and everybody's gravitating to your booth and seeing everything. And it's a
yeah.
very different style to many people that have seen Dem, but it
Yeah, I
works
don't try
so
to
well.
sell. I'm just having
No,
fun.
yeah,
Yeah, Stan Allen actually coined that phrase about me. He says you're a conversational dealer, because the newsletters too, they're all conversationals, all the ones I send out. Uh, but yeah, so that's what. Yeah, and my shows are conversationals. I'm here to be your friend, kind of thing. And it's all I mean, my performing style is self-deprecating, it's flippant, so I don't take anything I do seriously, and sarcastic.
yeah,
So all three of those things combined make me seem like a nice guy.
yeah.
And lay audiences kind of sense that I'm not there to offend them. I'm here to have fun with you for the next whatever hour or whatever it is.
That's
Yeah,
great. That's
yeah.
phenomenal. So when so you bought the product
Oh
range.
yeah. So I started buying others because I realized I can sell their stuff easier than my stuff. So I started buying the rights to individual tricks and I started putting those out. And slowly I got opportunities to buy other lines that people were getting out of the business or whatever. But before then, I was just buying the individual tricks from different people. Very rarely did I pursue it. These things just by luck. Again, I'm in the right place at the right time, and we're kind of having a conversation. They show me something. I say, "Oh, that's pretty good," and we work some kind of deal out. Uh, David Regal. I mean, his first few tricks I put out. A lot of people. Michael Gallo, his first few tricks I put out. It's just conversational. It starts as a conversation, but then I started buying bigger, and then when A1 was struggling, I bought a lot of their product, and that was once again timing and luck. I bought the rights to all their videos right before the DVD boom. So all of the videos I bought the rights to now had a second life in the new format.
Mm.
But it's like you do all of these things when you get lucky once in a while.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean that is. I mean, again, people that are in Magic now that have come in recently, they probably won't even realize how popular DVDs were. But there was
Yeah,
a,
huge,
there
huge.
was a period of time for say 10, 15 years where the amount of DVDs that were coming out,
And the 3 volume, and you could make money with a 3 volume set.
You
You know,
could. I
because
mean,
now they weren't spending 35, they're spending $100.
mm,
Those were the good years for me. They've never
yeah,
gotten that good again.
and you look at you, basically that was L&L's business model, wasn't it? You know, like
Yeah,
let's put out a
L&L.
big chunk.
Well, you know, I'm the only one around from that era.
Really?
A1 is gone. L&L is gone. Stevens Magic is gone. Havidionics sold to L&L. I'm the only one that's still alive from the original DVD producers.
That's crazy.
Actually, the VHS producers. I can even say that. Even before DVDs, I put out the Gene Mays VHSs, the Tom Mullica VHS, all those others. But all of them are gone. I'm still here, and I'm still putting out, streaming stuff.
But that's because you adapted, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm constantly, because I don't have long-term goals. I can just jump into the next thing.
See, there's another reason not to have a long-term goal.
And
So
I don't want to give that as advice. It's good to have long-term goals. It's good to have family, kids, take care. You can only live the way I do if you don't have kids.
but here's a question for you. What would you say are the differences between, that period of time where there were, yourself and L&L and A1 Multimedia and all of those guys, and it was DVDs and physical products were few and
Yeah.
far between. It was books, it was DVDs, and occasionally you get a physical product. And when it came out, it'd be everyone would be buying it for months because we knew we
Yeah.
would get another one.
Yeah.
Versus now, where it feels like every single day there's another 50
Right.
tricks that hit Murphy's, and if something and for
I heard they try to have 21 new items a week, Murphy's, on their day.
I wouldn't be surprised. Then it's kind of like these days when a new trick comes out, you got a week or two to make that
Yeah.
hit because
Yeah.
then it's going to be something else, and that's going to be
Yeah. No, it's yeah. So when I first put out Mirror Miracle and Finger Fantasies and Twist and Shot, those are my first three items. They sold for a good year or more, and I was able to sell over 1,000 of each one of those things over that year period. Now, if I put out a new trick, I'm lucky to sell 200 in the first year. And after that, it's dead completely. And basically, you're selling 30, 50, 60 the first week or two, and then it's over. Of course, there are exceptions.
yeah.
But basically, an average trick, I'm not selling more than 200.
But there's more magicians now probably than ever before, with the rise of the internet and YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
More people are
Competition.
getting into magic with disposable income that are buying magic than ever
Yeah.
before. So why do you think it is that like people are buying, like the things that are coming out are having such a short shelf life?
Well, because there's too much. It's on what's next, what's new, what's not. It's like things become old so fast. Everybody talks about it for a week, and now they're on to the next thing. And it's the problem with and I try to explain this to my customers, and that's why I don't sell thousands of items on most things I put out, is the people that are just getting into magic are looking for the holy grail. They're looking to buy that single trick that's going to make them famous. They're going to make it so they can be more popular than Craig Petty if they master this one great trick. Okay.
Yeah.
And that trick does not exist.
No, never has.
It never has. So when you're young and getting into it, you're looking for that one thing that's going to make you famous, that's going to make you better than all your other friends. And that's what drives the young market. As you get older, you start buying less because you start learning what fits you as opposed to what looks good, to the creator. And the creator is going to make everything look good, obviously. You created it. It's your baby. You thought about it for years sometimes. So it's a different mindset. But I changed. I would say maybe 10 years ago, I changed. I'm not after that market, by the way. That's why I don't sell thousands. I mean, Penguin can sell thousands of items and downloads, and Vanishing Ink is very powerful as well, selling tons of things. but I don't go after the same market they do, because I know I'm not selling them the Holy Grail. I'm not lying to them by saying, read this book and you'll be more famous than, Slidini or Vernon. And they don't even know who those two people are. My market goes to people like me. It's like when I started putting out tricks, it was my sense of humor, my technical ability, and I felt that my customers have a similar sense of humor and it's similar. So now, I buy tricks too, and I play with them, and I show it to all my friends, and that's my most of my market. I mean, there are exceptions, always exceptions, but a lot of the tricks that I pitch on my newsletter and I put out and I carry are things that you could buy. You could learn it in, let's say, less than an hour in most cases, and then you could do it for your friends and family for the next week or two, and
Yeah.
then you need another trick to carry with you. Back in the early 1900s, before we were born, all the catalogs had a category called pocket magic, which eventually disappeared. You never see that category anymore. And now pocket magic were all those classic tricks you carried in your pocket and you were always ready to do it for your friends. So that's really what I really, really like. And I mean, they're not here, but I have like little wallets, and I love wallets and carrying cases and coin purses. I buy everything because each one has its own set of tricks. And then, I can't believe I don't have any of them here, but, and like the magician badge that I put out, it's a way to bring out the wallet and you have tricks inside your wallet. So I kind of like that for me now, except for the shows. The tricks I do in my show are different, obviously, because I'm mostly doing stage magic now, not even that much close-up magic. So, but what I love is to buy something, play with it, and show it to my friends. So everything I put out, fun to play with, show it to my friends. And I know some of them are just going to play with it, show it to their friends, and a week later it's gone. But that's me, and those are my customers.
Yeah. Well, that's what magicians love. They love the toy factor.
Yeah,
Magicians at the end of the day, we're big kids playing with
yeah,
toys.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And a lot of magic clubs have turned into that as well. It used to be when I was going to the IBM and SAM in the 70s and 80s, everybody would like read the Linking Ring or the latest book that came out, and they would learn one or two tricks from those magazines and then do it for each other. And now half the people in the United States, anyway, that are members of the IBM and SAM have a Murphy's account, a wholesale account. And they buy the stuff at wholesale, and and stuff for their friends. They team up together and stuff. But basically, when they go to these IBM and SAM meetings, a lot, I'm not all and not everybody. I don't want to make it sound like it's everybody and all. But basically, they show each other the tricks they bought as opposed to the tricks they learned.
Yeah.
So that has changed a lot, because
Mm,
we used to be able to show off the techniques and tricks we invented, and that doesn't happen anymore in those IBM and SAM meetings.
no.
I think there's smaller groups that meet on Zoom and whatever that share that kind of stuff. But I'm not part of those groups because to them I'm a dinosaur. But yeah, so the world changed on that level,
Well,
and we did too. We're always adapting.
so here's a question for you. Like, it was relatively easy. Well, I say it was easy, it wasn't, but you knew what you needed to do back in the day in order to be a successful name within this industry. A Meir Yedid or a
Yeah,
Darwin Ortiz or a David
yeah.
Roth or a Jeff Latter or whatever. You would go out, you would interject yourself into a community, you would show that you can do something that nobody else can do, you'd build connections, you'd show your abilities off over and over again, and eventually that would lead to somebody writing a book or somebody producing a
Mhm.
video or so on and so forth.
But
uh,
there's a buzz also. A buzz is created.
yes, everyone's talking about it, and yeah,
Yeah,
because the
yeah.
internet wasn't
Vernon
around.
used to say, if you learn one sleight or one trick and do it better than anybody else in the world, your name would instantly be on everybody and all magicians' lips. And
Yeah.
it worked out with Jeff Latta. He did the best pass in the world, and then the trick where the card would rise up in the deck. Everybody was talking about that. He became so famous without ever leaving New York, just by word of mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And these days that's changed. So how, in your opinion, because obviously because the internet,
Yeah.
there's so people exposed
Okay.
to so much magic in the community. People don't meet up physically as much as they used to. Magic clubs aren't as big a deal because everybody's meeting up online in discussion
Mm-hmm.
forums and Facebook forums and so on and so forth. So how how do you think people would make a name for themselves today? What would somebody who's watching this that goes, you know what? I have unique material. I,
Yeah.
I consider myself a creator of unique effects, but nobody knows who I am. Nobody knows. No, I
Yeah.
don't know how to get a
It,
shot. How would
it's
you go?
well, it's very, very difficult. I mean, if we go back to the 80s, you had Henning and Copperfield, giants in the US because they were on TV. There were only like 5 TV stations. Everybody watched them when they were on TV, especially all the magicians watched them when they were on TV. In England, you basically had Paul, during
Yeah,
my lifetime, you had Paul Daniels.
yeah,
You Everybody tuned, all the magicians tuned into his show, and whoever was on his show became popular because it was the only thing on TV. In Italy, you had Sylvan, who had a TV special once a year. He was the Copperfield and Henning of Italy. In France, you kind of had Majax, but he also like hosted TV show, game shows and stuff. But so he became a name. But all of those things that have in common. In Italy, there was like 1 or 2 TV stations. Okay, in England, you basically had BBC One and ITV. I think that
yeah,
was about it.
yeah,
That was it. But all the countries, they just had 1 or 2 TV stations. So if you were on that TV station, all the magicians saw you that night. Everybody. There
yeah.
was no VHS. You had to tune in to see it.
Hmm.
Okay. So automatically, you got everybody knew who you were that day, and it may be another 2 months or another week or 2 weeks or 6 months during the rerun seasons that they would ever see another magician. So it was easy to become well known, not famous, but well known
Yeah,
by just appearing on TV there. I got lucky, right time, right place. I did in Japan. I did the highest rated show on TV in Japan, one of the highest rated shows in Germany, all because of the finger stuff. In the U.S., same. In Spain, I was on Tamaris's show. Also, Tamaris, Spain. There were only like 3 stations, and he was also segregated. And he also he performed in South America a lot. In South America, it was also very segregated. You have tons of countries all speaking Spanish and only have 1 station each. So
mm,
he would come in and he would shoot like 20, I think he had 20 sets, 20 routines for TV at that time. So he would record 20 spots at each of those countries and get paid from each of those countries. And they would run their spots over the next year as part of their variety shows. But once again, you had a lot of different markets and you didn't have competition from a viewing audience. So now you have Penn and Teller Fool Us, you have Masters of Illusion, you have America's Got Talent, and you can't name who was on any of those shows last week. It's impossible. It's just too many people, and nobody is watching it. They're waiting to see it on YouTube or Facebook or so. So there's just it's all a blur. So it's really, really difficult. I mean, a few people stood out. Obviously, Shin Lim,
yeah,
he's incredible. Matt Franco, after first magician to win America's Got Talent, huge.
yeah,
Uh, but it's also what they do after they win.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
but and that's the business part.
yes.
Talent alone doesn't mean a thing. It's promotion, as you know. You're great at it. but
Thank you.
but self promotion is really the most important thing. Promotion, and of course, you have to be likable because people want to work with you.
Yep.
You have to be approachable. I mean, there are a lot of things that go into it that are just you can't. And of course, YouTube and stuff helps out a lot. A lot of comedians don't get booked at comedy clubs unless they have a big following.
Yeah.
So because a lot of the comedy shows are Brigham shows also. So we'll give you 5 minutes if you bring 6 of your friends, to pay for cover and buy
Yeah. Yeah.
drinks. So those are like the weekday shows at the comedy clubs. But the ones that are becoming successful have millions and millions of Twitter followers or whatever it is. They show those numbers and you're more likely to be booked. It's not the same with magicians. You could have a video being seen by 50 million people, and then you do a live show and 3 people show up.
Yeah.
It doesn't work the same for magicians. So I don't really know how to get a name for yourself now. Back then, also, if you gave a bunch of tricks to the magazines, people would see that. But people don't even read magazines anymore.
Oh.
So I mean, all those venues are gone. You almost have to be on America's Got Talent, and you have to do something so weird and special that people are going to remember you. And that's really, really difficult unless you have a gimmick. And you're not going to have a gimmick, the first time you do it. That develops a person. You need a personality and all that stuff. But it's just, so I don't know. I can't answer your question. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm just rambling.
No, you're not. This is fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. It's interesting to see how things have changed because, like you say, you are probably the only producer that's left from the DVD era, and to see how things have changed,
VHS era.
and the VHS era, and to see how things have changed is really interesting, because people ask me that question on my channel all the time. They say,
Yeah.
I want to be famous in the magic community.
Yeah.
I want to be a famous creator of magic.
Yeah.
How do I do that? And I find it hard to.
Well, you have to create something that's kind of new. It doesn't have to be something nobody's ever done. I mean, people did finger tricks before me. It's just it was always a joke until I made it into a trick.
Yeah.
A viable a trick. And I kind of like, I feel good because now when I go to magic events, there are always people doing finger tricks. So I kind of like feel like I create. I think John Fisher in one of his books wrote that I created an entire category of magic that never existed before me, and that's finger magic.
You did.
Oh, it was kind of cool, but I think you need something to stand out. And doing like electronic stuff, impossible stuff, pre-show stuff. Yes, they're miracles, but so what? They're not making you stand out among everybody else that's doing that.
Yeah.
And they need, like Piff. You look at Piff, the dragon. First of all, he's hysterical, he's sarcastic, he's talented, and he's very smart. So he had that going for him, but he had no career until he put on that outfit.
None at all. I remember I knew John Vanderput before he became Piff the Magic Dragon. Yeah, he was a jobbing close-up magician. He went out and he did close-up magic at weddings and stuff.
Yeah, but he was very, very good. But so what? And then you put on. But I would have, if somebody told me, oh yeah, I'm going to put out a dragon outfit and I'm going to be famous, I'm going to think this guy's crazy.
Yeah.
But once again, thinking outside and taking a, you talk about me having guts to do my finger routine in front of all these people. How much guts does it take to put on a dragon outfit and go on a TV show and do a card trick? That takes enormous amount of guts.
Yes.
Because it could go either way. He could be a laughing stock or he could be fantastic. And he just went over the top, and his Vegas show, I don't know if you saw it. I went there last year. It was hysterical. It was great. And he's also a very nice guy. Yeah,
he is. He's very humble, considering of everything that he's done and everything that he's achieved. He's very, very humble.
Yeah, but that's one guy who did it. So you have to, it's like, I did you probably never saw it, but I did a talk about Kreskin.
No, I never saw that.
Yeah, it's on if you go to magictimes.com and search Kreskin, it's a 30-minute talk I did for the G4 conference last year. So it's a whole talk about his career, but because let's face it, he's a legend, especially in the United States. I mean, no mentalist has ever, I mean, everybody mentions his name. You go see a Marvel movie and his name comes up. Who do you think I am, Kreskin?
Yeah.
So, I mean, a legend, so how does he become a legend? And people studied him to figure out why, because there are other mentalists that did incredible stuff even during his era, but they didn't become legends. They didn't appear on The Tonight Show 80 times, on every imaginable TV show. They didn't have their own series, but he became a legend. And I asked him, how did you do this? And the people that studied him felt that it was like a perfect combination of him doing impossible things and being a nerd, like an absent-minded professor nerd. So you wouldn't expect him to have any kind of like a real ability. And then he was reading people's minds and doing magic, and he's doing impossible stuff from a character that you would never expect to do impossible stuff. So it was more believable.
Mm.
But and that's the character thing again. But also I asked him, why is it that you're on like a million TV shows? Why is it when I was a kid, I'm doing the crossword puzzle and like, once a month or every few weeks, your name is one of the things on the crossword puzzle. And he's a workaholic. I mean, that helps. But he would read the news every day. He was an avid reader, like a lot of books. His kitchen table was full of magazines and newspapers every day. They would all be coming in, and he would read everything. And he would always look for stories where he could insert himself into. So it's like Muhammad Ali's daughter was boxing. She was going to fight a match, and he sees this, and he writes her a letter saying, "Hey, I'm a master of power of suggestion. If you just give me, an hour of your time, I could psych you up to win. Using hypnosis and power of suggestion. It's like a football game. I'm going to predict who is going to win. The elections, I'm going to predict them." Every year on New Year's Eve, he would be on all these TV shows predicting what's going to happen in the coming year.
Wow.
But he would be sending press. It's like he also had a clipping service. So every time somebody mentioned his name on TV or in a newspaper or in a book, he would get the info. And he would then write a press release about that info. Hey, this major psychologist, the guy who cured cancer, said that, it's blah, 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 blah. Or so he was constantly every day looking for news stories to insert himself in and sending out press releases. When he would perform for celebrities, have photographers take pictures of him with the celebrities, and then he would send out to the press releases on that. I mean, there's a movie. I don't know if you ever saw The Great Buck Howard.
No, never saw it.
It's based on his life, and the more you know him, the more you know about it. It's so. What's his name? Malkovich played Kreskin, and he did an unbelievable job as Kreskin. The movie was written by one of Kreskin's road managers. So he wrote down everything Kreskin said and did over like a 1 year or 9 month period. And he made it into a script. And he sold it to Hank Lee. And not Hank Lee, Hank Lee, right? No, who still owes me money. If he's watching this, you owe me $8,500.
Get in line.
So Tom Hanks. So Tom Hanks and his son buy the rights to this movie and let this Kreskin's road manager direct the movie. And Tom Hanks' son plays the road manager. And Hank Lee is his father trying to talk him out of managing this mentalist. Ricky Jay is in the movie. He plays Kreskin's manager. And David Blaine also makes an appearance in this movie when they appear on a TV show together. It's a really, I love the movie. And I think the more you know about magic, because it kind of shows you the life of a magician or an artist and how he became famous and how difficult it was and how nobody paid attention to him. And all of a sudden, something happened and everybody's talking about him.
Mm.
But basically, it's constant pursuit until you get lucky.
Wow, that's crazy. And I want to ask you. I mean, that's phenomenal, and I'm gonna.
But you should watch that 30-minute thing. You'd be
I'm going
shocked at
to.
what I
I'm
talk
gonna. I'm
about.
gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it straight away because it sounds fascinating. I think I'd really enjoy that. But what the thing with the industry and the way it is at the moment is a lot of new people are coming into
Yeah,
magic all the time. And when you come into magic, you kind of look around and you kind of very quickly want to become a creator because we
yeah,
put
yeah.
creators on pedestals and it's like, oh, and it seems more accessible than ever before, way more accessible than it was 20 or 30 years
Oh
ago.
yeah, yeah.
So two questions on that. And the first question is, do you have any advice for people that are watching this when it comes to creativity? I mean, you've created so many effects over the
Just
decades.
constantly play. If you're inventing for the sake of inventing, it's like one guy called me and he wanted permission to use one of my ideas, and I said, sure, go ahead, whatever. But I said, are you a magician? He says, his title, I'm an illusion inventor. That was his title.
Okay.
Okay. And I think, I don't have goals. I just play and wait to get lucky. But if you're talking about creativity, when I do want to create something, not to market. I mean, I'm not because I don't really create to market. I create to play and enjoy, and if it's good enough, I market it. I mean, right now I just started playing with 3 themes. We could talk about it if you want. I don't mind. But so what I do is I envision the environment first of where this is going to happen. Am I going to do this at dinner, in a diner or a restaurant where people am I working for my friends? Am I working for lay people? Am I standing if I'm approaching, strangers and I need to start a conversation first? So I kind of like visualize this environment I'm going to create the trick for. Okay. So
Yeah.
I know everything about it, whether I'm on stage, how many people in the audience, how far away are they, can they hear me, is the spotlight blinding, can I see their face? So I try to put as much of that information in my head. And then I put myself in that situation, and what could I do to blow them, or what could I do to make them laugh, or whatever my goal is. And the goal is different. You don't have to just always fool. You have to entertain. You have to joke around. It's like, you could be at a wedding and you need to produce a ring or jewelry or whatever. So you put yourself in that environment and you give yourself the goal of, I want to get this effect out of them. So what props am I going to use? Now, obviously, you could do cards and coins. Everybody does cards and coins, but you also start thinking, well, what's going to be on the table that I can use? And it doesn't have to be something that's on the table. It could be something that's logical for that environment, whether
Yeah.
you're on stage or a wedding or, then the colors get involved. So you kind of create the moment first, and then you decide what would be the most powerful thing I can do at this moment. And you're going to have a bunch of ideas. Most of them are going to be impractical. And then you hone in, and then it's a matter of how lazy you want to be in creating this. Are you going to start gluing things together, or are you just going to use sleight of hand? Or are you going to use technology? Are you going to use pre-show? Are you going, which I never do. Are you going, it's not worth, I have a terrible memory. I barely remember the cards I'm forcing, let alone, but yeah, my girlfriend always kids me. I asked all these people their names and I never remember it by the end of the show. But so that's how I create if I'm actually going to do something for myself to perform.
Yeah.
And then you need to come up with a story, because magic without a story, a beginning, a middle, and an end is not interesting. So, and it can't be a story about some fictional characters. It has to be a relatable story, because if people are not, it's like I remember at the beginning of video game popularity, stand-up comedians started doing jokes about characters in video games, which
Yeah.
I know nothing about, and I'm sure half the audience has no clue what they were talking about. So you have to be relatable, and you have to be likable. Also, that's part of the creative process. You don't want to be antagonistic. But you create things that are conversational, because I'm conversational. So I often start, you know what this is? You know what this is? So it starts explanatory, and then it gets bigger. But that's my process. There are obviously a lot of ways to create, and I would start thinking about it along the environment. What would I do? How would I do it? What would I say? Also, and I'm not the only one. Studies have done this. If you're taking a shower, you're much more creative while taking a shower. If you go into your shower with an idea, you might be able to solve it by the end of the shower. And the reason is the water that's banging on your body or your head is it creates positive and negative ions or something. So it actually stimulates your thought patterns, your brain.
I have never heard of that. That's really
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so I mean, so a lot of times. So I'll tell you the three things I'm working on,
okay.
Because I'll probably never ever put them out. It's just to play with. And this is all within my thought patterns within the past week. So this is not even, I haven't done anything with almost anything. I played with it, but not really did it. And there is no trick. It's just a premise. So this is the beginning of the creative process. So I have a card trick, a coin trick, and an egg trick. Which one do you want to hear first?
Let's go for the egg trick, because
Okay.
that's
All right. So this was my process. They just put out these sponge eggs, and they're actually pretty soft. They're very good, I think. So I always wanted to do a trick that Dan Garrett did, which is using the Sonata gimmick, hiding a sponge egg. So you show your hands empty, you produce the egg, and then he went under the table and stuff to switch to get the glass, and that's when he switched the sponge egg for a real egg, and then he cracked it open. And I thought that was really cool. I would never do that because I'm a slob. If I try to crack the egg open, it's going to be all over the place. But I started thinking about how, if I was going to do this, how would I do it? Okay, and that's how I play. So the first thing is the Sonata gimmick and the egg. Since I'm not handing the sponge egg to anybody and I want them to believe it's a real egg, I attach the egg to the Sonata gimmick. Okay, so let's say this is the Sonata gimmick. Okay, so over here you see I have one. This is the wrong size, but it's not trimmed. And you know what? Let's not use this. But all right, so this is a Sonata gimmick. So my thumb opens this, and now I have an egg in my hand. Yeah. And by my fingers curling, that egg disappears. So now I have a production and a vanish of an egg. Yeah. One-handed. So now I can palm the real egg in my right hand, which means I don't have to ever leave your sight. I show this hand empty, I produce an egg, I take the egg, I crack it open. So that was how it started. But once again, remember I told you about environment. So this is a stand-up routine. Yeah. So why would anybody produce an egg and crack it open? So my premise was, you know what? When I was growing up, everybody had this riddle. What came first, the egg or the chicken? The chicken or the egg, which came first? Well, I was a stupid kid. I didn't know the right answer. But science has evolved so much during my lifetime. They know the answer now. Chickens evolved from flying dinosaurs. And the dinosaurs' eggs were around way before the chicken was ever came into existence. So the correct answer is egg. And then, so that's the intro to the routine.
That's a great headline. Yeah, I love that.
So this is my thought pattern. I'm letting you into, the way I'm, and nothing will ever happen to this. So I'm free to give it away. I know this doesn't fit me, but what do you go next? I don't want to crack an egg open. It's going to be a huge mess. But I thought about, if I'm going to do it, I'll have a paper towel here. And when I pick up the paper towel, I dump the gimmicks, and that way I wipe my hand. Yeah. So I thought about all this crap, but I'm not going to do it. So then I thought, okay, we're going to produce a duck egg and call it, this was laid by a decoy, which is an old joke. And it's a wooden egg, and I could toss it into the audience. And then we use the egg to pick somebody for a card trick or something. And I thought it was just like stupid. I mean, I wouldn't do that either. So then I thought, well, what about a hard-boiled egg? Okay, that's not messy.
No.
But why would I produce a hard-boiled egg and then prove that it's a hard-boiled egg? You need an excuse, right?
Yeah.
Because then I thought the middle of the hard-boiled egg is a yolk. Get the joke? It's a yolk. So I break it open. I remove the yellow thing. The yellow thing looks like a yellow sponge ball. The middle of a hard-boiled egg is a yellow. First of all, you do all the jokes about yolks, okay, which there are plenty. But now you have basically a sponge ball. You switch it for a sponge ball, you split the sponge into two, and now you can go into your favorite sponge ball routine.
That's great.
But none of this fits me, and none of this I'll ever do. So if anybody's watching this, enjoy. So that's the egg trick, and that's how far I've gotten with it. But just thinking and playing.
And you got to have fun with it as well, haven't you?
I
know a lot of creators that look at creating magic as like a puzzle. It's kind of a puzzle that I need to complete.
Well, all creations are problem solving. So if you look at, you need a premise, and then you have a million problems to solve. So I kind of walked you through the presentational and method and also outcome. So every step was a problem to solve, really.
Yeah.
But you need something to start with. And I think people who want to be creative, that's the biggest mistake they make. I want to be creative. I want to create something impossible. That's not how creativity works. You have to focus on a single thing and see where it takes you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like you can't create in a generalized environment. I mean, people that write programs and create programs or whatever it is, they're focusing on a thing. Even AI, you think about it. Without the proper prompt, it's completely useless.
Completely useless, yeah.
But if you know exactly what to ask for, it can give you that creative answer.
That's very true. Yeah, yes, you're right. I never thought of it like that, but yeah, you're 100% correct.
Yeah. But well, the card trick and the coin trick are not as interesting, so we could skip those.
It's totally up to you.
No, I don't. Well, no, the coin trick is the newest thing I've been thinking about.
I love coin. I love coin magic.
Right. So back in the 70s, Mike Gallo came up with a coin principle, and I think Michael Amar published it in his book and his pamphlets. The principle was the one behind principle.
Great principle.
So you're familiar with it. So basically, you're doing 4 coins across, but you're only using 3 coins.
Yes.
And he was using the Gallo pitch with it.
Yes. Jay Sankey then revisited that with using his Himba false count.
Okay.
He had 3 coins that he had 2 coins masquerading as 3 the entire time.
Yeah, and there are a lot of ways to count. Like you could even do an Elsley count with 4 coins.
Yes.
And there's a take back methods. I mean, but Gallo was using the Gallo pitch.
Yes.
So to show you so he had 4 coins across using 3 coins. So I just finished editing my latest download of my Gallos, and he did something different, not one behind, but I want to use what he created in this trick and apply it to a 3 coin thing. So he did 4 coins across with 3 coins in a shell. Okay. And I haven't really seen that before.
No.
And it's very interesting. His routine is fantastic. It's in a download that's on sale right now on my site. But basically, the effect is you have the 4 coins, and you put 3 of them. You put 3 of them under a shot glass, and when you shake the shot glass, obviously one of the coins goes into the shell. So you automatically have 2 under the shot glass, and you produce this. To join it. But basically, that's his routine. So my thinking is taking his one behind principle and applying it with a shell. So now you have 3 coins, but you can show 4.
Mm.
That kind of makes sense.
It does. You've got the best of both worlds. You've only got
Yeah,
3, so you've got the advantages of being one behind, but at the same time, you've got access to apparently a fourth coin, so you
right.
can have very clean displays at various different points.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not a perfect thing, and it's not something I would ever put out, but it's a fun thing to play with,
Yeah.
and you never know where it's going to go.
No.
So it's because most people who do for it's most coins across routines are one ahead. They have an extra coin or a shell. This is actually not, which is kind of it's a cool thing I'm thinking about. I don't know where it's going to go. Maybe nowhere.
But you never know. You never. Some of the biggest ideas start
Yeah, yeah,
from, just a very simple premise.
yeah. So
Um,
those are the 2 things I'm thinking about this week.
well, talking about coin magic. I mean, one of the things that I mentioned at the very beginning of this interview that you've done, obviously, with your company is you have reintroduced an entire new generation of magicians to David Roth, who, as you know, was a huge inspiration
Yeah,
to me. My favorite magician of all time,
yeah.
and I have to thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah.
It's wonderful that you are doing that. It's just great. Was that
He was my friend, and I kind of like I didn't do this on purpose, but a lot of my friends, I kind of like it ended up being that way. But once again, it's all luck. I'm not really. I don't have the goal of making Sal Stone a household name, but I ended up, doing a video with him or Herb Zara. I published the book. I know that's him. I published the book. I put out the DVD. Sal Stone, I put out the DVD. I bought the rights to the book. I put out a couple of his tricks. Ken Krenzel, I put out a card trick of his. Simon Aronson, I put out a coin trick. There's an old expression. I'll give my version of it. It's like you die 3 times. I mean, you've heard this. You die when your body stops functioning. You die at your funeral or memorial, and the third time you die is when the last person ever mentions your name.
yeah.
So by keeping them on my website, and I have an artists list, and I keep putting out their products, I keep reminding people that these people existed. So Roth is easy because he's a legend, but a lot of the others, like Magic Ian, who came up with a bunch of stuff, I put out his tricks. It's a lot of people. I keep their name going. Steve Schneiderman, who just died recently, and Jerry Andrus. I put out the 3 DVDs and some downloads. Harry Anderson. It's kind of like I didn't do this on purpose, but I kind of like the idea of mentioning my friends' names, you know. And now I bought the rights to all the New York Coin Magic Seminar videos. So I'm slowly putting that out as DVDs because 38 hours of material, how do you go through it?
In one go, it's very overwhelming. It really.
Yeah. So I'm putting it out in like 20 and 30-minute things of Lada and Gallo, like I said, coming up. This is on now, a lot of the Roth. So I have like 250 tricks by those people, and I can release that over the next 5-10 years on a semi-weekly basis and keep their name going.
That's great.
And Rene Lavande, of course, I put out his DVDs, and Leonard Green, I own the rights to all his videos, and a book that I didn't finish yet.
And you know what? It just shows that, like, in a race to get the latest and greatest tricks, some of the best tricks that have ever been created, people don't look at these tricks from 10, 20, 30 years
Yeah,
ago.
exactly.
They fall by the wayside. And what I love about what you do is you bring them back to,
Mm-hmm.
you introduce them to an entire new generation of magicians.
And I keep them alive,
Yeah.
not just the tricks, but the people. So before you asked, how do you become a name? Well, if you put out and I love Penguin and I love Vanishing Ink and I love Murphy, so I'm not putting them down, okay? Or
Yeah.
Alakazam. I mean, all of them are my friends. But if you put out and you're an exception because you put out, you have like the diarrhea of magic tricks. You put out so many. So you're everywhere all the time, but not everybody can do that.
Yeah.
So if you put out a trick, let's say we'll use Penguin because they're the biggest, really.
Yeah.
and the nicest to me. I've always been from Ajar and his partner. When they started Penguin, they were always friendly, hanging out at my booth all the time. We had a great relationship.
And you know that I'm very good friends with Sean and Mandy, and they
Yeah,
all speak very, very
yeah,
highly.
and they're really nice people, and everybody that So I'm focusing on Penguin, but I'm not trying to put them down. It's just the same applies to everybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. So Penguin has newsletters almost every day.
Yeah.
With new tricks every day.
Yeah.
So let's say they put out a John, fictitious name, John's magic trick. It could be one of the greatest tricks in the world. Okay. So John's trick is advertised on Penguin today. Okay. Tomorrow they have the next best trick coming out.
Yeah.
So John, after let's give him benefit of the doubt. Let's say this trick is so good, people are talking about it for an entire month. Okay, which is rare these days.
It is.
So at the end, and he made money because Penguin has a big market and they're paying him royalties. So he did okay financially. And John feels great. And John thinks he's now famous because he's everywhere. And, everybody's talking about this trick. But come, 1-2 weeks after that first month, and he's completely forgotten. He's still on Penguin's site, but he's no longer being promoted.
Yeah. Okay.
So when somebody comes with me, I'm not there every day. I'm not promoting new items every day. I do 2 newsletters a week, but I keep your lifespan longer. Now you're not going to make as much money because I'm not going to sell as much, but I'm going to keep your life going much longer.
Yeah.
But then you look at it from even a close. Let's say this. Instead of Penguin, let's make up like the dwarf planet. No, that could be offensive these days. Although midget wrestling is huge in the United States now.
There you go. Yeah,
I was so funny. I was doing a show and I saw the signs all over the club that were advertising midget wrestling. I must have said the word midget 20 times during my stage act, because this was the only place I could use that word without being canceled. And that was the premise of the joke. But let's say the giraffe.magic.com. Okay. So Giraffe Magic decides to buy the David Roth product line. Okay. Instead of me. They are going to put out all his tricks as fast as they can to make their money back.
Yeah.
So they're going to really promote David Roth and Giraffe Magic for about a month. And it probably won't even last a month, but let's say it's a month. And they just put out 20 of his tricks in that 1 month.
Yeah.
But now Giraffe Magic has a lot of employees, it has a huge overhead. They need the next David Roth for the next month. So they stop promoting because they already got all the money or almost all the money they're going to get off David Roth. Now they need the next project and the next project and the next project. So he becomes a commodity instead of a magician. So you're not really keeping his legacy. You're just selling his stuff. Kind of thing. And I don't do that. I respect everything I have.
And that makes absolute complete sense.
And your longevity. Yeah. I also give you longevity, because I'll always be talking about it.
And I think that's important because, like I said to you before, there's new people that are coming into magic all the time. Now more so than ever before. The amount of people, because obviously on my YouTube channel, I see a lot of new people that because my channel kind of comes up first normally on YouTube.
Yeah. When I log into YouTube, that's the first thing that pops up.
So a lot of the time when people get into magic and they search for magic content, I come up relatively quickly.
Yeah.
And because I answer a lot of questions, people ask questions and they'll go, I'm new into magic. I'm new into magic. So many people are coming into magic new. And I'm seeing 2 things. One, they come in and they burn out very, very quickly. They come in, they buy everything, they just buy everything that they can because there's just
which by the way is great,
yeah,
because you learn everything when you're young. You're
yeah,
not going to learn everything when you get older.
yeah,
They say you're most easiest to learn and most creative in your teens.
yeah.
And basically everything you do for the rest of your life after your teens is based on what you learned in your teens.
I could see that actually. Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
But
I mean, and they go back to Einstein, all the geniuses of our times. Their greatest creation was like late teens or maybe sometimes early 20s, and they spend the rest of their life coming up with variations of what they originally created.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's true. But you see these new people coming into
Yeah,
magic all the time, and some stick around, some don't, some
yeah,
leave, whatever the case may be. But I think that the point I'm trying to make is what you're doing, I think, is the right thing, because the new people that are coming into magic, David Roth is brand new for them. For a company that would, use the example of buying the David Roth material and putting it out once and then not touching it again,
mm-hmm.
there's going to be a whole bunch of new people coming in. And if
Mm-hmm.
that's never promoted again,
Right.
they're missing out on something incredible. By you constantly re-promoting your friends and all of the
Yeah, and what I do is like with David Roth, I'm putting them out gradually. It used to be called a running gag when I did comedy. Now it's called a callback, but basically the same thing. So I'm constantly doing callbacks. So if I'm promoting a Michael Rubenstein trick today, I'm also mentioning all of the previous releases I put out. So it's like I'm always calling back my previous releases with a current release when it makes sense. And I think a lot of people don't do that. A lot of like the giraffe companies.
yeah. Well, I'll tell you an interesting thing that happened to me at Blackpool this year. So I was at Blackpool this year, and I was in a bar, as you tend to do at Blackpool, and there was a magician who came up to me that has a relatively big following online for coin magic. He's known as a
Mhm.
coin guy, and I'd never met him before. And we sat down and we chatted and we talked and we were having a drink. And he showed me some coin magic and it was beautiful. And he said, "Can I see something?" And so I did my everyday carry buzzword, everyday carry, the thing that I always have with me, which is a razor coin. It's just my favorite thing to do because it reminds me of David every time I do it. I have
Every day.
yeah, I love it. I have about 20, 30 of them. It's my favorite thing to do, just ever. I always have.
Yeah,
I
I
have
do
one
too.
ever. I have so many.
And I spoke to him about putting that out a million times, and he always said no, it's too good.
Well,
He
I'm glad.
didn't want people to do it.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you have because genuinely, I use it every single
Me
day.
too. Me too.
But I showed him this, and he was like, "That's incredible. Is that?"
Yeah.
And this is a knowledgeable coin guy.
Right, right.
And
Where's the
he's like,
switch? That's what
he's
they
like,
think.
"Yeah," and he's like, "That's incredible. I'm completely fooled. What is it?" I'm like, that's a razor coin. You can get it. And yeah, I said that,
Yeah,
you get it
yeah,
from you. And I,
yeah.
he's like, "Who's that by?" And I was like, by David
Yeah.
Roth. And he's like, "Who's David Roth?"
Oh no.
And I'm like, and he wasn't like being funny in any way.
No,
He
no.
built up this following
Mm-hmm.
as a really good coin magician, and his coin
Mm-hmm.
magic was great, but he'd never heard of David Roth.
Yeah.
And that to me was just,
Because there's just too much out there.
yeah, I think
And
that's,
David hasn't really performed or lectured in 20 years, maybe.
yeah, maybe, but it
Yeah.
still blew me away.
Yeah.
It did. Like,
Yeah, no, it is. It is
it was
legend.
like,
Legend.
so
Legend.
I immediately told him to buy everything from you that's to do with David Roth, like immediately. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting, but where do you see, okay, so one last question. Where do you see the industry going now? Because you've been in this industry a long time. You've seen so many different ways that
Mm.
the industry has gone. At the moment, there's a lot of magic coming out all of the time. There's a lot of production companies. There's a lot of independent producers. A lot of magic coming out all of the time, built off the back of the
Young
classics of
people
magic.
coming in. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Where do you see the industry going? Do you see
I don't know anymore. It, it, it used to be that the industry would change a little bit every 6 months or a year. It changes a little bit depending on what's going on in the world. But now it's changing almost every week. AI, just 3 months ago, nobody talked about AI. Now AI is writing magic books. All the graphics that you see on all the magic companies are I cheat too, are generated by AI. I only use it for the background, not the main things, but still. So that changed a lot, and AI is going to change some more. And as computers get more powerful, video streaming is going to. I mean, people were always talking about a chip in your head where you could see stuff in your eyeball. So maybe that's the future of video, is just you close your eyes and imagine, David Roth doing the eraser coin. I don't know, but the market is kind of, there are a lot of new magicians coming because of all the TV shows and YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot more people that the entry level has gotten much easier.
But does that mean with so many people coming into magic and with so many tricks being produced, it's harder to stand out as a creator in this industry?
Almost impossible. It became it's on a level where it's a commodity.
Yeah.
It's not what's next, and that ultimately hurts the industry, because there are no guardrails to what is good and what isn't.
Yeah.
It's like anybody can come up with a trick, record it on their phone, and sell it, or try to sell it. But now a lot of the big companies are taking those downloads and putting them on their site for sale, which I think is a huge mistake, because that's your rep. If something is on the Zebra website, you assume that Zebra looked at it.
Yeah.
But they, and I'm we shouldn't be using an animal, because I don't really mean penguin.
I know you don't. I know you don't.
uh,
Yeah.
I've just thought of zebra off the top of my head, but I'm not isolating companies. But basically, it's the old saying: the chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And now there are a lot of weak links, because you have. You look at some of the Chinese companies that are putting out tricks on a continuous basis, and you cannot stay at this level if you're trying to pay salaries for 50 people or factories. You have to constantly put out new stuff, and you're not giving yourself enough time to manufacture it the right shape, the right size, the right presentation, the right, everything. You can get lucky once in a while, but there's a lot of stuff that comes out that should not be coming out. And that also turns a lot of young people off. But it hasn't really happened that much. People are used to, and that's always been an issue. It's just much bigger now. But before Cannons or Abbott's or whoever, they're not going to, or even me later, I'm not going to invest my hard-earned money unless I think I can make money back.
Yeah.
So now that it costs almost nothing to do a download, and it just disappears, there's going to be a lot, and there is already a lot of junk, a lot of tricks that are not really practical. I mean, how many people are constantly complaining, oh, this trick only works on YouTube, or this trick only works if you have 5 assistants working for you, or whatever the thing is. It's not practical.
I remember speaking to Scott Alexander before he passed away. Shortly before he passed away, we were having a conversation about this, and he said, it's so easy to produce a download right now. And it's so easy to get it published that he hypothesized that there's going to be numerous tricks on the market where somebody woke up with an idea, filmed it, went out and shot a performance of it in a tutorial on the phone, uploaded it, and by that night, that's now product.
Yeah, exactly. And that happens. That is happening. It's not.
Yeah, it is. And one thing that, you said that I'm very prolific and I bring out a lot of magic, and I kind of do, I suppose.
I like the diarrhea line, but okay.
Yeah, it's true. The diarrhea line, it's true. It's true. I'm not even gonna deny that for a minute. It's 100% true. But
And I don't mean it's shed, it's just constant flow.
it's true. It's true. It really is. But I always try to make sure that it's good. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It gets worked. It's something, and I
And you
may not
give
have
more than, and you always give more than what people
I
have
try
paid
to.
for, which is also very important. And I always, if you read my ads, I'm always underplaying what they actually get.
Yeah.
So when you buy something, you're always getting more than what you thought you bought, and that's kind of important, or exactly what you thought you bought, but never less than what you thought you bought.
Yeah. And to
And I think that's
under
very
promise and
important.
over deliver, I think is
Yeah,
very,
exactly. That's very powerful.
yeah, I completely agree with you. And what about you? Before we wrap this whole interview up,
Oh
what about,
wait, can I do an ad?
oh,
Because
yes,
you
please do.
okay?
Well, I'm not quite done yet. I've got other questions.
Oh no,
But
this is
yeah,
about his
yeah,
show. This is about shows. It's not about
yes,
marketing or anything.
I'd love
So my friend, because he, this, and I'm glad we kept it to the end because now he has to watch the entire thing to,
to.
to hear his name. All right, so my friend Jim Spinato does 4 shows a week at the Mohegan Sun Casino at Comics Comedy Club. The Mohegan Sun Casino is the second largest casino in the United States. It's a big deal. In Connecticut, it's like 2.5 hours from me.
Wow.
So he does 4 magic shows. He's been there for 15 years with hypnosis and magic shows. But he is allowing a lot of the local magicians to open for him, which is a phenomenal opportunity.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So for the past 8 years, I've been opening for him one Sunday, one or sometimes more than once, but basically I committed to once a month for the rest of my life. Okay. So for the past 8 years, I've been on and off once a month, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on what's going on. So the next one is kind of cool. Is on July. I'll be there twice in July, July 19th and July 20th. So if you're in the Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Rhode Island, all those states are driving, New Hampshire, all those states are driving distance to the Mohegan Sun Casino. Now, the third largest casino in the United States is the Foxwoods Casino, which is 10 miles away, 20-minute drive.
Okay.
So on July 19th, Saturday, I'm opening for Jim at 4 o'clock at the Mohegan Sun Casino. Lance Burton is doing his full evening show at the Foxwoods 10 minutes away.
Wow.
So it's a double feature. If anybody wants to come on Saturday the 19th, you get to see me and Jim in the afternoon, Lance Burton in the evening. And I'm also there on Sunday, and it's possible, we don't know yet, that Lance and his whole cast might show up.
Wow. That's
Uh,
amazing.
but basically, I'm there all the time. That's where I break in all my stand-up stuff because I only do it once a month, so I get to play.
That's great. That's
Uh,
awesome.
but it's also super nice of him to give that opportunity to everybody. He doesn't need to.
Yeah, that's you that's the point. You wouldn't need to do that, if
Yeah.
when you've been headlining for that
Yeah.
long, you wouldn't need to. That's obviously somebody that loves the community, loves
Oh,
magic.
he loves magic. Well, he's in his mid to late 70s now, so this is now he made his money in magic as a professional, doing everything, like you have to. So this is like his retirement. He lives 10 minutes from the casino. It's like his dream job.
It's everyone's dream job that's in magic. That's amazing. Wow, that's so cool. And
Yes.
I
But
start.
if you ever want to see my full finger routine, much longer than anything I do for magicians, because I have time. So my finger routine at the club on stage is full of jokes and it lasts about 10 minutes as opposed to all my other stuff.
You see, I want to get a ticket over to New York now,
Well, anytime.
just to
Well,
see
you know
that.
what? When you're ready, I'm sure he'll let you open for him.
Wow, that would be a dream. That would be amazing. I'm gonna read now. And you know what? I'm actually seeing Mia. I'm seeing a lot of we talked about how back in the day it was all stage magic, and I'm seeing a shift to stage magic again now.
Or,
So I'm
or
seeing,
platform. Yeah. Not illusions yet, but platform, parlor. Yeah. Well,
yeah,
there's so many magic clubs now too, all over the United States. It's insane. Uh, and they're like really good environments built for close-up magic or parlor
yeah.
magic, really.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it is changing. It is morphing from YouTube magic. But I was saying during one thing that was good during the pandemic is that everybody learned how to perform on TV.
Yeah,
You
they
know,
did. Yeah. Yeah.
just 5, 6 years ago, an average magician would have no clue how to deal with the sound system and the lighting. I mean, they had to learn so much that they can now actually produce their own TV shows if they had to.
Yeah. That's
And
very
that
true.
that never existed before, because the people that did TV did TV, the people that did close up did close up, the people that did illusions did illusions, and a lot of times they didn't even focus on the other subjects.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Yeah, I never thought of it like that, but you're absolutely right. I mean, the amount of virtual shows I did over lockdown,
Yeah.
I was doing like 6 a day at one point. Yeah, I was just down at the bottom of my garden, just constantly
Oh,
filming.
wow.
Yeah. Okay, one last question, which is, I know you haven't. I know we've talked extensively about the fact that you don't have any long-term goals, which is fine. And I
Stay alive.
stay alive. That's a good goal. That's it. That's a goal I want to live by as well. But you've achieved so much in this industry without having goals. You have achieved and continue to achieve so much. And like you said, you have a very loyal customer base. And I suppose my question is there anything else left that you'd like to achieve within this industry? Let's not call it a goal, but
Mm,
if
Nah,
something like you've
not,
done
not
everything.
really. I kind of feel like I've done everything I wanted to do, and now I need to get to not walk away from the industry, but like let everybody else do their thing. It's
Mm,
like I'm not. Another reason why I don't like Jim's show. I'm not taking anybody's work when I'm doing Jim's show at the casino.
mhm,
Okay, I don't want to get into that market and compete with people that need it to earn a living with. I did this already. I walked away.
mhm.
I'm just enjoying myself. I really just want to enjoy life. And, I owe everything to the magic community, because really all of my income comes from my friends in the magic community, whether it's the lectures, the shows, the products, the following that reads my newsletter twice a week, which, by the way, everybody watching this, go to mymagic.com, sign up for a newsletter. I send them out twice a week. And
Yeah,
I
your
always talk
newsletters are
about
great,
stuff.
and I always end up buying stuff a lot of the time, as
Yeah.
you know, because yeah, you what you tend to do is put stuff on your newsletter. And here's the problem. I'm going now to sidetrack. Here's the problem. Because of Murphy's, and I work for Murphy's, I'm not
Yeah.
going to slag them off. I'm not that stupid. But because Murphy's puts stuff out to every magic shop around the world,
Hmm.
what tends to happen is I perfect example. Daniel Garcia has just brought out a new trick, one card. I had about 15 emails within an hour go into my email inbox. Vanishing Ink, Penguin Magic, Murphy's Magic, Alakazam, Saturn Magic,
Everybody,
Merchant of Magic, all the magic. Every single one of them telling me,
except one.
except not you, but everybody else tells me about that exact same trick. And it almost becomes a race to
Yeah.
get that email out before anyone else.
Yeah.
With your emails, because you have such an eclectic back catalogue of magic, and because you're constantly looking
Hmm.
to bring stuff out that's maybe an older item, and
Hmm.
it, the stuff that your emails are the most interesting to me. And I'm not just saying that because I'm speaking to you, genuinely are. Because when I see an email coming through from MyMagic, I know it's going to be something that I've probably never heard of before, or it reminds me of something that I saw years ago. And I love that. I love that. So genuinely, hand on heart, your mailing list is my favorite mailing list to be on out of every single dealer in Magic.
And there's an archive of the last 1,000 or so newsletters I sent out at magictimes.com, so people can read it to get a flavor for it.
Yeah, it's great, and obviously it's free to sign up, and you'll
Yeah.
pick out.
And I always try to talk about, add an idea here or there, or reminisce about something. It's not really built like a sale. It's built like a conversation, because we were talking at the beginning, conversational magic.
Yeah, Absolutely.
And the problem, I love all these new tricks that come out, but I can't compete with all those people. A lot of those people have warehouses across the street from Murphy's, and I refuse to advertise an item that I don't have in hand.
Yeah.
Okay. So when everybody advertises it before they actually have it, they're competing with people who refuse to advertise things that, because I don't even know if it's good yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't usually do well with those huge tricks. Once in a while I would carry it because I need a newsletter or whatever, but sales wise, for all those items, I sell very few.
Yeah.
Very few, but I do manage to get a lot of exclusives from a lot of people, and a lot of times they would, like when I go to Magic Live, I will spend a lot more money buying stuff from all the dealers that don't want to take the stuff home than I like. You know what? Let me give you a tease. Has nothing to do with me.
Okay.
My prediction: best-selling item at FISM. Okay. He won't let me sell it until after FISM. And I only have my one that I've performed for all my friends. And they all said this is one of the greatest tricks they've ever seen.
Okay.
It's by Crease. Crease, the magnetic coins. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is his new item. It's called
Dice
Prediction. I'll let you peek in the box. I think this is amazing. This is what you get.
Okay, that looks very interesting. I've got no idea what's going on.
And that's all I can say. I won't even tell you what the effect is, but go see it. It'll blow you away.
Wow. And Crease is going to be at FISM.
Yeah, he has a booth there.
Wonderful. Well, I'm going to be on the Penguin booth at FISM.
So go see before he sells out. He sold out.
I'll go and see him before anyway. That's the advantage of being on a dealer booth. I get to see it before.
Yeah, tell him Meir told me to see the dice trick.
I'm going to go straight there. Your recommendation is all I need, my friend.
Yeah, no, he sold out at Fechter's because we had a deal. I said, look, I'll take everything you have left at Fechter's. And at the end of the convention, he said, I sold out, but I'm going to give you my demo.
Wow,
and then I did it for all my friends, and it was just like, holy cow. Well, and when you tell them and my friends are magicians, so when I told them the method, wow.
That's killer. That's awesome. Well, I'm excited about that. I know I keep saying I've got one last question, but something has popped into my head, which is you mentioned very earlier on about how you spent so much time performing in England and you did the convention circuit over here. Will we ever see you lecture again in England? I ask selfishly.
Highly unlikely.
No, that's a shame.
Yeah, I just don't feel like traveling anymore. And also my lectures have always changed. It's like, I don't even know how many different lectures I've done because like I said, I play. Yeah. So it's just like every time. So I would have to start from scratch to put a new lecture together. And I just don't feel like doing it right now. Yeah,
that makes sense.
And I have enough material. I committed to doing one last year for a friend of mine. It was all new material, and I just did it. And but yeah, I just don't feel like it. It's I'm not even I my passport. I have to decide if I'm going to even renew it. I just don't. And also because I'm a one-man operation, I can't really leave town for too long because I'm as far as delivery is concerned, we're all competing with Amazon.
Yeah.
So Amazon delivers the next day. We have to get as close to that as humanly possible. So if I don't give them a tracking number for a week, I may have lost them forever as a customer.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So, but I'm right now I'm happy. So I'm not really planning on traveling that much. And Fechter's I drive to. So really, I'm only flying to one convention a year, and that's Magic Live. And that's because a lot of my friends are there, and I get to buy a lot of exclusives. So it's like after Magic Live, the next maybe 5-6 newsletters are items nobody else even knew existed unless they were at the convention.
which is great. You know, getting you that exclusive.
And my condition of buying everything they have left, and a lot of them, you know me now. So at the end of the convention, before packing their booths, they come and hand me stuff because I pay right away also.
Yeah.
So it works out in my favor. And it's basically like buying real estate and flipping it.
Yeah.
So I'm buying all this stuff, and my condition, and I told this to Murphy, so they know I'm not, I told him, look, I'll only buy this if I can have at least a 1 week exclusive before you give it to Murphy's. And that's the condition. And a lot of times they can't even afford to give it to Murphy's because of the pricing.
Yeah. Well, that's smart. That's a smart business decision.
Yeah, so that's what I used to do, but now I do it at Magic Live, mostly Annex Factors.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. But obviously,
that's why, you saw me at the Penguin booth at the end of the last day. Every year I come in and take those bags of stuff of the latest releases.
and yeah, and Sean and Mandy are always ready for you as well.
Yeah. And I get to advertise the new Penguin items before Penguin,
which is hilarious. It's so funny.
Sometimes, not always.
Yeah, but that's so cool. So, but you ship, just for anybody that knows and hasn't ordered from MyMagic before, you ship worldwide. So,
yeah,
I order from you an awful lot, and your shipping is super fast. It comes over to me straight away. It's always there. So,
and I rarely advertise anything that I don't have in stock.
Which I don't know many magic dealers that do that anymore.
No, nobody wants to stock anymore. They're used to like ordering it, and I mean they pay for that. But yeah, nobody wants. Inventory has always been a company killer.
Yeah.
And I have a warehouse full of inventory I can't sell. If I buy 20 items from Zebra, and I sell, let's say, 12 of those 20. Those last 8 could sit in my warehouse for 5 years, Yeah. So there's always, and I always look at those, even though I broke even on the 20 by selling 12. I always look at those 8, which are the profit.
Somebody needs to buy those things. Yeah.
And eventually they do, but still, but that's what also for tax reasons that works against you to have inventory, which is a cost of goods sold in the United States anyway. I think probably everywhere.
Yes.
So inventory costs money.
Wow. But you can ship worldwide, anywhere in the world.
Boom. Every day, even Saturdays.
That's great. That's fantastic. And anybody who's listening to this interview, you will find a lot of things. If you've never been on the MyMagic website before, you'll find a massive selection of things on there that you would
nobody else
never seen before. Yeah, such a.
Although I do. Murphy's does carry a lot of my items. Maybe a third of the products I put out over the years. A lot of it you won't see on any other website.
Yeah. Yeah, it's completely unique to you. And it's fun. There's many times that I'll go onto your website and I'll just go down the list of creators and I'll click on their names. I'll be like, oh, I never knew that person had this. Right, add to cart. It's fun to do.
But so I'm putting out 2 new items in time for Magic Live.
Okay, spill the beans.
Well, one just came out, which was my WoW book test with the Kreskin thing. I used. Can I do like a mini pitch?
Please do.
Okay, so my first big seller came out in 1987. It was my WoW book test, the Walk on Water book test. It was 2 hardcover books. Well, I ended up with an inventory of all of Kreskin's books, the books Kreskin wrote. So I'm bouncing all over it in the warehouse, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do with all these books? And then it dawns on me. A book test with Kreskin's books.
Wow.
Because what's the excuse in this day and age to walk on stage with 2 hardcover books or any books? You look like a dork. Nobody reads. What's your, I used to open with my book test. Hey, I travel a lot, so I'm constantly buying books to read. So these are the 2 I just bought at the airport or whatever. So that was the excuse to get into a book test. But how do you introduce a book in this day and age?
Everything you can, yeah.
So here are two books written by the most famous mentalist in history.
Done. What a great hook.
This is what if he was here today, this is what he might do.
Love that.
Not only that, these books came from his personal inventory. And inside the book, there's a book thing that says it came from his personal inventory.
Oh, that's great.
And I give you a link to that 30-minute talk I did about him, which is a biography. And you just pick whatever you want to say. But for the first time, I feel like in this day and age, you have an excuse to do a book test. Once again, conversational, which is my style. How do you start a conversation about what you are going to do? Here are two books by the most famous mentalists. He was just on, predicted this. He predicted, whatever you want to do as pattern. The movie was about him, what we said before. So, and now you're into it. And now people actually want to look at the book because this was like written by the world famous mentalist.
That's great.
And even though a lot of people that you work for today don't know who Kreskin is, they may have heard the name.
Yep.
And now you have an excuse to even have patter that you don't have to write. It's been done for you. So I just put out the Wild Book Test number 7, the Kreskin edition. It's doing really well. It came out 2 weeks ago.
That's great.
The other two items I'm going to be very kind of like not really tell you what it is, but they'll be out hopefully by Magic Live. One of them is what I've been closing my stage act with for the last 15 years. And
Wow.
People have begged me to put this out. It's not a magic trick, but it's a killer closer. I've been closing my close-up show with it for even longer than that. But this is the big stage version. And that's going to be out hopefully at the end of this month, actually. And then this is like a Craig Petty promo now. The greatest coin box routine in the history of the world.
I love my coin
boxes. Of the world.
I love my coin boxes, man.
This is, in my opinion, the greatest coin box routine ever in history.
Wow.
Period. And I can say that because obviously, as I said before, I wouldn't say that if it was something I invented.
Can we say who the person is?
I'd rather not.
Okay.
It's too much of a clue.
Okay.
But he's still alive, so that eliminates a lot of.
That eliminates the goat when it comes to coin boxes, David Roth. But
yeah, but okay. This is self-working.
Right. Okay. Well, put one aside for me.
But there's a lot of work involved, so I'm hoping to have it out by August.
Oh wow! Well, and
I'll fool you with it when I see you.
Well, I'm not just saying this. This is true. At Magic Live, I get in and I'm helping Penguin set up the booth. The very first dealer I go up to is you every single time.
And I really appreciate it.
Because and I immediately say, yep, I want that.
Put it aside.
Because I know you're going to sell it out. And I do that because I know that out of every single booth in that place, you're going to have the most interesting stuff.
Well, I try, but you never know. Yeah. It's possible that these two items I just pitched, may not happen. Because you're always depending on a lot of other people to do a lot of other work.
Yeah.
To put this stuff out in time.
Wow.
And and I do everything in the US. So it's like everything is labor intensive and different people do different parts and pieces. And to get people to actually work, the closing trick I've been trying to put out for a long time. And the guy who was going to make it tried calling all the people in that industry to see if they want to make it, and none of them want to make it. But he was the one who originally made my prototype that I use on stage. So he kind of like said, okay, but I'll only make 10 at a time. And I still don't know what the price is going to be. Might just be too expensive to put out, but we'll see. But the coin box is like a 95% chance it'll be out.
Well, I'm very excited about that. Oh my gosh, this has been an incredible interview. I've done over 250 of these, and genuinely, this has been one of my favorites of all time. Huh. It really has. Like, you're so knowledgeable. You've done so much in this industry, and you continue to give back, and you're just incredible. And I love everything that you do. And Genuinely, seriously, thank you so much for coming on the channel.
Oh no, thank you for having me.
And
I'll see you soon.
you're definitely going to see me soon. And everyone that's watching this, I want you to do a couple of things for me. First of all, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought of the interview. I loved it. But secondly, and more importantly, wherever you are in the world, go onto MyMagic, go onto the website. First of all, sign up to the newsletter. It's free, and like I say, it's an incredible newsletter. But then, secondly, spend some time browsing on that website, and you're going to find it very different to a lot of other magic dealers' websites where everyone's promoting the same tricks. You're going to see a lot of different stuff on there that you won't have ever seen before, and you'll be able to, if you're looking for a trick that makes you stand out that nobody else is doing, the way you do that is by finding the hidden gems, and the way you find the hidden gems is by going to places like MyMagic where they're actually focusing on stuff that is tried and tested that you are probably not aware of. So go onto the website, sign up to the newsletter, go and check out some of the stuff.
One thing, can I do one of those gems before we leave?
I'd love you to. Yes.
One of the first things I ever published.
Okay.
Even Jeff Busby loved this when he reviewed my book. This is the thing he singled out. It's a pirate coin. It's a pirate. It's a pirate coin, and I'm going to put the pirate coin in my hand. Okay, no, it's not over here. But look, if I give it a little blow, like it's not here, I'm going to take it and I'm going to make it completely disappear. But I'll do it again because I caught you off guard. So I'll do it with a $50. I don't have any more pirate coins. They're all gone. But so this is not a $50. I'm sorry, a US dollar. So once again, no, it's not over here. But look, and it's completely gone. But I'm going to do it one last time, just for you. But I'm going to do it and let you figure it out. Okay. So before I was cheating, I was putting the coin in my hand. So really, you lost sight of it right there. You didn't know when it disappeared. I'm going to hold it at my fingertips this time. And then you're not going to see it go. It's just going to disappear. You're going to hear it vanish. You're not going to see it vanish.
That's great.
So that's called the almost perfect vanish. And it originally appeared in Apocalypse, I think in the 80s. I'm not sure the date.
Well, there's some incredible gems in Apocalypse.
Yep.
Wow, that's great. I've never seen that before. But then again,
it looks better live, by the way.
Well, it looked pretty bloody good there. You can go through somewhere like Apocalypse, and
oh, yeah, it's great magazines.
I've read them a million times, and I always pick something new up every single time I read.
Those are the people I hung out with every week. The people in Apocalypse, that he used to come down and write up everything everybody showed him.
Wow, that must have been great times.
It is. And he would also, a lot of people would send him tricks from all over the world, and he would all show it to us and teach it to us a year before, because he felt that he could, once he performed it a bunch of times and taught it to us, it would be easier for him to, and I'm talking about Harry Lorraine, it'll be easier for him to write it. Because he would do it, he would teach it, and then go home and just type, handwrite on yellow pads first, and then type it and put it aside. It might appear in Apocalypse a year later.
Wow. That's, I never thought about that.
I don't have a ring, but I don't think. Also in Apocalypse, how I don't have a ring, otherwise I'd do it for you. Yeah. But how there's a big fad of, you put a ring on your finger and it jumps from finger to finger.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay, so guess who started that?
Really?
And it's in Apocalypse. Now, everything everybody else came up with afterwards is much, much better than what I was doing. But I don't have any rings here. But that's in Apocalypse, and I gave it to Harry, just to give it to him one afternoon. And I think, published it like 5-6 years after I gave it to him, because he was always looking for non-card items to sneak into the issues, and this was a short thing. And, Garrett Thomas, who started that whole genre, he always gave me credit. It's like I read it there. And then, but back then, that was before my car accident, I was looking for any excuse to do a trick with your fingers. So once again, you think of the environment that we talked about before. So what fits in with your fingers? Rings were the most natural thing. So I came up with a whole bunch of trick finger rings and fingers and thimbles and fingers. And that was one of them. But yeah.
That's sick.
I was also one of the first people to publish Rubik Cube magic when nobody cared in like 1981 or something.
Really? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, there's a book somewhere called Rubik Cube Magic, and I was already performing it at like the Magic Townhouse, and they asked me, so I gave them two tricks, and I held back the one I was using because that was the best one, and of course I have no idea what that is anymore. I completely forgot. But the concept of two paper bags and Rubik cube solved. They solve a cube and they throw it in a bag and you pull it out of the bag and they're solved. That was what my routine, and what I did it with a regular cube, but also with a miniature cube. So I would hold the bag with the solved cube behind my fingers and the regular cube in the bag. So they reached into the bag, took the cube out, mixed it all up, threw it in the bag. I waved my hand over it, and now my hand just goes in with the solved cube, comes out, and it's completely solved. I crumple the bag and throw it away. So it was a simple, very, very simple, nothing. But that was one of the tricks that I allowed them to publish.
Wow.
And I also did it with two bags, so two people could do it for two people at the same time.
That's incredible. I mean,
but nobody cared for like 20 years, 30 years, and then all of a sudden Rubik Cube magic became a thing.
It's crazy that it suddenly became popular, like out of the blue, like many years after
I know.
you had its heyday. It was like,
yeah. I also had a bunch of Pac-Man tricks, but that never came back.
Really? Pac-Man tricks?
Yeah, I don't think I ever. It was supposed to be on the cover of Richard Kaufman's Almanac, so he probably still has it written up somewhere. But it was, the effect was, and I used to do this in my show. But remember, Pac-Man was huge back then. It was like the first major video game. So I had half the deck with a hole drilled out. And I think Sankey came up with an idea based similar to this a year, much later. But there was a hole drilled out of half the deck, right? So a card is selected, and I put a sticker on it, on the back. And there's their name is on the sticker, and I lose it in the deck. Then I take another sticker of Pac-Man, and I put it on top of the deck. And then all I have to do is do a one-card pass as my finger's in the middle of the deck.
Yeah.
And as I move the Pac-Man, the top card with a Pac-Man out, my finger is now inside this hole. So the Pac-Man ate through half the deck. Boom, and fingers through. There's the Pac-Man that I signed. I signed the Pac-Man. So he's on the back of the card. And then when we look at the face of the card, it's their sticker with their signature on it.
That's right.
I later on thought, well, now Pac-Man is over. Maybe we could talk about oil drilling and I could publish a trick. But yeah, it's gone. Until just now that I remembered it. It would have never occurred to me otherwise.
That's a great idea. That's a really good idea. It's crazy, you know. You've created so much magic, and you just think, well, you know, all the good stuff's been released, but that's not the case. Like, there's so much.
Well, you play. Well, the egg trick. You work on it. It's yours.
I think that idea is brilliant.
It's not even close to being finished, but that's my thought process, how it works.
Yeah, it's a great idea. It's a really, really, really good idea.
But if anybody realizes the way to create is to create an environment and focus, zero in on what you want to do, then everything else just falls into place. Then it becomes really a problem-solving skill. Anyway, you have to go to sleep. What time is it in London?
I keep going for another 3 or 4 hours. 2 o'clock. 7 minutes past 2 in the morning, and I'm wide awake. I'm just loving every second of this. I could do this for another 4 hours. Meir, this has been an incredible interview. Thank you so much for coming on the channel. I'm going to get you back on again very, very soon.
Part two after I get a good night's sleep.
Part two coming soon. But yeah, guys, leave a comment down below. Most importantly, go on MyMagic, sign up for the newsletter, go check out the website. And if you're at Magic Live, one, I'll be there, so come and say hi. Second of all, Meir Yedid will be there. He only goes to 2 conventions, and this is the last one this year. So make sure you go and check out his stand and ask to see the new stuff because it sounds amazing. Make sure you go do that. And I will see you again soon. Thank you so much for watching. Meir, one more time, thank you for coming on the channel.
Good night.
Guys, I'll see you again. My name's Craig, and this is Magic TV.